The U.S. is dealing with the fallout of a massive bank failure. Silicon Valley Bank collapsed Friday and was taken over by the U.S. government. It's the second largest bank failure in U.S. history. President Biden is expected to approve a controversial oil project today, the ConocoPhillips Willow drilling project on federal land in Alaska's North Slope. The administration plans to scale the project back from the initial request. Environmentalists are not happy with the Biden administration. They say he promised that he would not move forward with this project when he was campaigning for president. And Ruthie Carter has become the first Black woman to win 2 Oscars. Carter, who in 2019 became the first Black person to win the Oscar for costume design for her work on Marvel's Black Panther, was recognized for the film's sequel, Wakanda Forever. In her speech, she thanked director Ryan Coogler and asked late Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman to look after her own mother, who recently died at 101 years old. Speaking of the Oscars, the indie sci-fi film Everything Everywhere All at Once won 7 categories at the Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Actress for Michelle Yeoh, who is the first Asian actor to win a Best Actor award at the Academy Awards. It was a milestone for Asian representation. In a speech Saturday night, former Vice President Mike Pence delivered what amounted to his strongest rebuke of Donald Trump to date, criticizing the former president for his role in the lead up to the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, as well as attempts to rewrite the history of that day. A monument to African-American pioneer Harriet Tubman was unveiled in Newark, New Jersey last Thursday, taking over space where a statue of Christopher Columbus stood until the summer of 2020. And Amy Wax, a law professor, has said publicly that, on average, Blacks have lower cognitive ability than whites, that the country is better off with fewer Asians as long as they tend to vote for Democrats, and that non-Western people feel a tremendous amount of resentment and shame. At the University of Pennsylvania, where she has tenure, Amy Wax has invited a white nationalist to speak to her class, and students are asking whether this professor's speech deserves to be protected as the university prepares to discipline her. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. And in this hour, it's all about the Oscars. Yes, millions of people tuned in yesterday to watch the fabulous fashion and also to see who would go home with the golden statue. But lots of folks were disappointed, and I would say even divided. Some Twitter users were disappointed to see that Black Panther star Angela Bassett lost in the Best Supporting Actress category, especially to Jamie Lee Curtis. Other folks said Angela broke a golden rule when she sat through the applause for Jamie Lee Curtis as Jamie made her way to the stage to accept her award. I think you have to understand that for Black folks, Angela Bassett is royalty, and lots of folks think of Jamie Lee Curtis as Hollywood royalty, given who her parents were. We're going to be joined by Tamika Townsend. She's a professor from the University of Washington. She's a critic on race and the media. She's here to help us break down what happened at the Oscars, what we should make of what some folks are calling the snub of Angela Bassett, what we should make of Angela Bassett sitting down as Jamie Lee Curtis, took the stage to accept her award. Was that quiet disappointment or was it rude behavior? And where does the Oscars go from here? We didn't have a lot of drama like the last time when we had the big slap of Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, but has the Oscars really lost its significance, particularly to African-American actors? When we come forward, KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
The U.S. premiere of the official Bob Marley One Love Experience has arrived in Los Angeles. Open now through April 23rd at Ovation Hollywood on the corner of Hollywood and Highland. Tickets start at $20 plus fees and are available at BobMarleyEXP.com. That's BobMarleyEXP.com. Get your tickets today.
California is a great place to live and work, but those aren't easy things to do for students also going to college. That's why the state created the Californians for All College Corps, a way for students to build skills and help others while earning up to $10,000 for school. Commit to serve your community and we'll help you pay for college. Spots will fill up fast, so learn more and apply today at www.cacollegecorps.com. That's www.cacollegecorps.com. California is a great place to live and work, but those aren't easy things to do for students also going to college. That's why the state created the Californians for All College Corps, a way for students to build skills and help others while earning up to $10,000 for school. Commit to serve your community and we'll help you pay for college. Spots will fill up fast, so learn more and apply today at www.cacollegecorps.com. That's www.cacollegecorps.com.
Thanks to our new sponsor, Lendistry. Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered in Los Angeles. Lendistry helps small business owners access the affordable capital needed to grow. Visit Lendistry, LENDISTRY.com/KBLA today.
Moments like hearing my cat purr good morning mean a lot to me. But after being diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, or MBC, which is breast cancer that is spread to other parts of the body, they mean even more. I take Ibrance, palbociclib. Ibrance 125 milligram tablets with an aromatase inhibitor is for adults with HR-positive, HER2-negative MBC as the first hormonal-based therapy. Ask your doctor about Ibrance and visit Ibrance.com. Ibrance may cause low white blood cell counts that may lead to serious infections. Ibrance may cause severe inflammation of the lungs. Both of these can lead to death. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including trouble breathing, shortness of breath, cough, or chest pain. Before taking Ibrance, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection, liver or kidney problems, are or plan to become pregnant, or are breastfeeding. Common side effects include low red blood cell and low platelet counts, infections, tiredness, nausea, sore mouth, abnormalities in liver blood tests, diarrhea, hair thinning or loss, vomiting, rash, and loss of appetite.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening and watching Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. And if you are watching us on our KBLA YouTube station, post a comment, post a question. We're going to read it on air. Or download the KBLA app and you can listen wherever you are, anywhere in the world. And in this hour, in my second hour, I'm taking your calls at 1-800-920-1580. I want to hear from you, particularly if you were glued to your television set last night or you've been on social media following what's been said or what's being said about the Oscars. My guest in this hour, Professor Tamika Townsell, wrote a really thoughtful piece, and I want to read the beginning of that piece. She said, when the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced the nominees for its 95th Oscars and three of the most celebrated films of the season, The Woman King, Till, and St. Omer, received no nominations, a familiar refrain of frustration rang forth. These films demonstrated typical dramatic and technical markers that tend to predict cinematic success, positive reviews, scripts inspired by true stories, and adherence to dramatic formulas. So it's natural to wonder whether the fact that each featured a Black female director and Black female cast may have had something to do with the snubs. Welcome, Professor Townsell.
Thank you so much for having me, Areva.
Thank you for writing that very thoughtful piece. You wrote that piece about snubs even before the conversation that's taking place online today. after the Oscars, because today there's been a lot of online talk about snubs, particularly as it relates to Angela Bassett. So we're going to talk about that. But before we get to that, let's talk about the Women King, Till, and St. Omer. No nominations, 0. And the Woman King, Viola Davis. Talk about Hollywood and Black royalty. What happened? I'm speechless about it. Maybe you have an explanation. You study this for a living.
I think pure and simple, we see time and time again that Black artists, especially when they are a part of a project that is really centering Black life, Black characters, that there seems to be a higher bar. There's this constantly shifting goalposts within a prestige organization like the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And we saw that play out this time around. Viola Davis has called The Woman King her magnum opus, and anyone who saw that film knows that first and foremost, Viola delivers every time, okay? You cannot see her appear on your screen, whether it's your small screen or big screen, and not be moved and not be captivated, okay? She is constantly delivering. But what is, I think, in this sense, Viola Davis has an Oscar, right? She has a Golden Globe. She's an EGOT, right? One of the few Black women who has won these prestige awards across multiple artistic categories. But Gina Prince Bythewood, who people my age first fell in love with her through Love and Basketball, and we've seen her develop and also constantly deliver these very carefully constructed stories about Black life, about Black love, about Black womanhood and Black girlhood, and not really get her accolades, right? She doesn't get acknowledgement from her peers. And that was, I think, an even larger snub, that her directing and the vision and the intention that she brought to this breathtaking film, this very complicated film, which, by the way, the women were doing all of their own stunts in this.
Wow.
And that was a part of her direction. She said, look, in order to live in this space and pull off this performance, they have to be able to do it. They have to know what it's like as women to have that power, that warrior power in their bodies. And she, fearlessly led these women on this years-long journey to create this masterpiece. And she gets that the door slammed in her face. It's unfortunately something that we're used to. We're used to seeing this with Black art generally, but especially when it comes to acknowledgement at the Oscars.
Yeah, and we know this is not just about money, because I was just reading something where Creed 3, biggest Black, it was the biggest grossing movie for a Black director. And for a debut Black director like Michael B. Jordan, it grossed over $100 million. So we know that stories directed by Black people, starring Black people, about Black folks make money at the box office. And that diversity report that the professor at UCLA does every year shows us that Black folks are some of the most TV watchingest, movie goingest people on the planet. So you cannot say that we won't go see it. If you make it for us, we're going to be there. So we know this isn't, Professor Townsend, an issue of money. Now, we know the budgets of Woman King. The Woman King budget was incredibly low.
Yeah.
When you think of a movie of its proportion and what it was bringing forth on the big screen, as you said. But if it's not money, then what is it? Because you would think the theater, the movie production houses, as well as the Academy, would have to take that into consideration.
Right. Well, when you look at an organization like this, you have to consider its history, because when we are looking at who the nominees are, this is based on people who are a part of the filmmaking enterprise. So what is supposed to be happening is that people are supposed to be judged, have their work judged by their peers. But we see this happen in all kinds of different contexts, that when you have an institution like the cinema that has historically been dominated, managed by and sort of targeting a white audience, and in terms of the people who have been running it, white men, then they have a different sort of point of view of who they consider to be their peers. Right. So sometimes there are films that are being created that are true masterpieces that aren't even making the short list, right? So when you look at some of Regina Hall's work that she did last year, which was phenomenal, especially Hung for Jesus, Save Your Soul. I mean, people weren't even talking about that in the conversation.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because, Black folks may have, I don't know, we may have had something to do with that, because, Black church folks in particular were really turned off. A lot of vitriol on social media about that. Folks that didn't see it, it's a movie about a preacher, a Black preacher who gets involved in some kind of sexual indiscretions with a member or some members in his church, and it's a big lawsuit, and folks flee the church, and here's the First Lady standing by him trying to protect her husband's integrity, whatever's left of it, trying to protect the church, whatever's left is down to like 0 members, and standing by her man. But Black church folks didn't like that movie, Professor Townsend. They thought it was like just shameful, that they were airing this dirty laundry, that they were stereotyping Black pastors. And in the movie, he had this elaborate wardrobe, closets of super expensive clothing and shoes, and they had this very expensive lifestyle that they were also trying to protect. So do you think the theme and how sensitive Black folks got about the movie maybe overshadowed the great job that Regina Hall, because I agree with you, I watched the movie, I was floored by it. You know what, to be honest, I didn't watch it because I had gotten so much negative feedback, and then I was on an airplane and I had a chance to watch it, and I was like, this is a good movie.
It really was. I couldn't wait to see this. And this is one of those films where the controversy surrounding it certainly, I think, curbed some of or influenced some of the negative critique that it ended up getting. But when you look at Hall's performance, whether or not people agree with the story, and obviously, there's been all this speculation about what real life pastor may or may not have been the inspiration for this. But what I think was captivating, what kept me floored, and my dad is a pastor, and so I grew up sort of within this. What had me floored was this close-up look at the interior life of a first lady, right? What it means to walk this tightrope and to try to please your man, to please a congregation, to, adhere to these norms of respectability, and try to secure something for yourself. That is what Regina Hall gave us. And the thing is, when it comes to the Academy, it's not like it's lots of Black folk voting, right? So I think and some of the performances historically that have been acknowledged, Black performances that have been acknowledged by the Oscars, were controversial. The first Black woman, Hattie McDaniel, to win an Academy Award, won for her portrayal as Mammy. They didn't even give her an actual name, right? And Gone with the Wind. Mammy, right? So she was literally performing a caricature. And the NAACP was big mad about this, right? There was so much debate, even to the point where the Black press was reticent to even acknowledge her historic win. So that controversy and even a little bit of scandal has not stopped Black performances before from being recognized. But I think that in this, what we're used to seeing, the Black performances that are recognized tend to be within Black films that are helmed by white directors. And the films, while they might feature a Black person in a starring role or a supporting role, they often are not films that are completely focused on Black life. There's Black people a part of this bigger sort of white or multiracial story.
Yes, and we know that is the way people talk about Halle Berry's win for the Oscar for Monsters Ball.
That's right.
And another controversial film, particularly for Black folks, because Black people, I remember when she was nominated and then won that Oscar, the talk being, well, look what she had to do. She had to have these explicit sex scenes in the movie. The whole theme of the movie was so dark. And that was also very controversial movie for Halle Berry. And obviously, as you said, it's a movie directed by a white director, primarily white actors other than her, I guess, and her son. And I guess that was Michael B. Jordan was her husband, right? Who was incarcerated.
I think Diddy. Diddy.
Oh, you're right. It was.
And I think that might have been one of his earlier performances.
And we don't see him a lot on the big screen, so I didn't even remember.
No, we don't.
It was Diddy that was getting executed, that was incarcerated and going to the death penalty. That was again one of those controversial films for Black folks, and we haven't seen her nominated, have we, since then?
No.
Halle Berry?
And her work, she directed and starred in a film that came out in 2020, Bruised, which, funny enough, that story was originally written for Blake Lively, that character, a white actress, and she turned it down. And Halle Berry, I think, has the same management as her. So the story had come to her attention and she wanted to play the role and she had to direct it. It was hard for Halle Berry to even get that film made. So we see that even while there is this sort of passing acknowledgement of Black talent, and sometimes that acknowledgement comes when Black performers are sort of capitulating to these stereotypes, that even that doesn't yield the kind of security that it does for white performers, that still a Halle Berry has to struggle. She was struggling to even get that film financed. I think she had to use some of her own money. So there tends to be this asterisk next to Black cinematic awards.
Well, it's interesting because we should not gloss over the fact that last night history was made with Ruthie Carter, first Black woman to win 2 Oscars. Now, Ruth is not an actor. Ruth is a costumer, and she's got her start with Spike Lee back in the 80s, and she has been a part of some incredible films, including, films that we all love, like Malcolm X. So here's a costume designer, Black costume designer, who's fabulous by everybody's account, by every account. She wins 2 Oscars. What do you make of that, Professor Townsend? Not for acting. And costuming is a new category even for the Oscars. Am I right about that? No, I'm thinking about... It's not new, right? It's not a new category, but obviously she won it for the first time with the first. Yeah,
it's not a category that we have seen certainly a lot of Black.
We haven't usually seen. Yes, absolutely. So she's new. I mean, she's ushering in a new era as it relates to Black costumers. But what do you think the Black actors are thinking? Like, we love you, Ruth, but girl, how does the costumer win 2 Oscars and we've been out here and we don't have a Black actor that's won 2?
Yeah, I think it's that that 2 things are true at once, and this is something that's very familiar to Black folks and to Black women. While you want to celebrate her win, and you want to point to how well deserved it is. I also want to say, though, if you look at what she had to do. I mean, come on, the costume artistry within both Black Panther, which she got the first Oscar for, and Wakanda Forever, is phenomenal. I mean, she had to create costumes from a world that didn't exist,
right?
Really. So when you look at the bar that somebody like a Ruth Carter has to clear in order to get acknowledgement, and you look at other people, like one of the other people who was nominated is the costume designer for I think it's called Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, which is a cute film, but it was like a tour fashion, and I'm thinking,
I know, like Christian Dior couture.
Yeah.
Like go back to a magazine from the period 40s or 50s and figure out what the people were wearing. Yeah, no, bar very, very high. Ruth Carter, an incredible costume designer, well deserved 2 Oscars. And you're right. Oftentimes, I feel like African-American women in particular are pitted against each other. And you have her winning in categories where you don't have someone like Angela Bassett, who this was her second nomination. We know we can think back to What's Love Got to Do with It when she was also nominated. When we come forward after some news, sports, and traffic, we're going to talk about Black royalty, Angela Bassett. All love her, love her, love her. She was fabulous last night, looked incredibly regal in her purple designer gown, but she came up short in that Best Supporting Actress category, and folks aren't happy about it. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Forward.
I'm Julius White. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. U.S. consumers should not panic after 2 bank failures. That's according to financial experts. California's Silicon Valley Bank failed on Friday, and that was followed by the closure of New York-based Signature Bank on Sunday. 3 out of 4 Americans who moved in 2022 have some regrets. New survey from real estate brokerage HomeBay found the biggest regret was a tie between wishing they had moved to a bigger place and missing their old home. Other regrets were that the new home was too expensive or too much of a hassle. And the Cowboys are freeing up cap space before the start of the new league year. Dallas has agreed to rework deals with Black quarterback Dak Prescott and right guard Zach Martin. The move frees up about $30 million in cap space for America's team.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
I'm Julius White on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Corona, 71 southbound before the 91. Got a stalled shuttle bus in the second lane from your left. In Fontana, 10 eastbound before Sierra Avenue. Got that crash. Still blocking the 2 right lanes. In Anaheim, 91 eastbound before you get to Tustin Avenue. Got a report of a brand new crash trying to make its way over to the right shoulder. And in Hawthorne, 105 eastbound before Hawthorne Boulevard. Got a crash over on the right shoulder there as well.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
UCLA and USC will be competing in the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. The Bruins are the number 4 seed in the Greenville 1 region and will host the first round at Pauley Pavilion. The Bruins open up against Sacramento State on Saturday. USC is in the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2014. The Trojans are the number 8 seed in the Seattle 3 region. They'll play South Dakota State Friday in Blacksburg, Virginia. Top 4 seeds in the women's bracket, undefeated South Carolina, Stanford, Indiana, and Virginia Tech. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by Original Taco Pete.
Aaron at Original Taco Pete's. Come in today for our tasty seasoned black taco. We're at 3272 West Slauson off Crenshaw, or call 323-348-4441.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates Women's History Month, sponsored by Walmart. As we celebrate Women's History Month this month, KBLA Talk 1580 would like to spotlight women leaders in our community who are creating positive change. If you or someone you know is making a difference in your community, please nominate them with a 50-word or less post on why you feel they should be included in the KBLA Women's Series, sponsored by Walmart. These women leaders will be featured on KBLA, interviewed on KBLA, and participate in a panel discussion hosted by Areva Martin in real time. Visit the KBLA app or log on to KBLA1580.com to nominate a woman in your community that is creating positive change. This has been a KBLA Talk 1580 community call to action. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. Today, I was able to speak with Ola Wadibia, VP of Women on the Move. Hi, Ola. Tell me a bit about this initiative by JP Morgan Chase, founded in 2013.
Women on the Move is a center of excellence at JP Morgan Chase in our global DEI organization, where we really focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. What's really awesome about Chase's approach is that all of our centers of excellence, and there are 7 of them, focus on different demographic groups, is that we're really focusing on what's happening internally in the firm and also what's happening out in community. So really, Women on the Move is really focused on thinking about how do we help advance women professionally and personally.
I love it. So tell me about this beautifully updated banking branch here on Crenshaw.
That was really important. A part of our racial equity commitment was to build in place for Chase. So being able to revamp this beautiful space, to be able to welcome community members, today anyone, nonprofit, organization, school can actually do events in our community center that we're sitting in here for free. Yes, people come inside, grab a coffee, use the Wi-Fi. It's free.
Yes, Maisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. Make sure you download the KBLA app. And if you have a question or a comment about the Oscars last night, give us a call at 1-800-920-1580. I'm taking your calls. I'm joined by Professor Tamika Townsend of the University of Washington. She's a scholar, educator with expertise in race and media studies. And she has a new book out called Branding Black Womanhood, Media Citizenship from Black Power to Black Girl Magic. Thank you, Professor Townsend, for your brilliance and your expertise on this issue. All right, we got to talk about Angela Bassett last night. We know that Miss Bassett is considered royalty, not only in amongst Black folks, but I would venture to say in Hollywood. She was nominated for Best Actress for her role as Tina Turner in the biopic What's Love Got to Do with It back in 1994. And she was beaten that time by Holly Hunter, who had starred in The Piano. So for many, this was going to be that moment. This is going to be that opportunity. And some folks think, Professor Townsend, that the Oscars has a way of making good for folks who have been overlooked. Like some folks thought last year, Will Smith got that Oscar for King Richard, the movie about Richard Williams, the dad of Serena and Venus Williams, because of all the other movies that Will Smith has been in his illustrious career, but yet he had not won an Oscar. First of all, do you think that happens? Do you think the Oscars does that? Because a lot of folks are thinking that's what happened with Jamie Lee Curtis. Like Jamie Lee Curtis, is Tony Curtis's daughter, and she's Hollywood royalty, but she's never won an Oscar. And you could tell she was super, super excited last night. So do you think the Oscars does that? Like they look at people and say, long career, time is here, give them an award.
Yeah, I mean, the Oscar voters are human. And so I think that they are subject to all of the things that could influence any of us when we go in to evaluate the quality of a performance or of a film. And despite the fact that they are human, though, I was just looking this up, 81% of Oscar voters today identify as white, and 67% as male. And that's after there's been some intentional efforts to diversify who gets to vote for these really important awards. So I think that to some degree, while Angela Bassett is absolutely royalty to us, I think if you look at her work, again, because she is very intentional about how she selects her roles, and because she has portrayed these iconic Black women, I think that the sort of downside to that, or the bitter side to that, is that a lot of times those films are not on the radar of the majority of the people who are voting, right? Who have admitted anonymously that a lot of times they don't even watch Black films. So, so much of her work, so much of what we appreciate about her has, I think, could very well be not even really legible to some of the people who have the power to help make these decisions.
Yeah, we should note that Angela Bassett made history for her performance earlier this year after becoming the very first actor from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to not only receive a Golden Globe acting nomination for a Marvel feature film, but also to win altogether, taking home the accolade for Best Supporting Actress in a Motion Picture. She was also first person to be nominated for Best Supporting, that's with respect to that Marvel film. Let's talk about the Marvel Universe. That's not the kind of film that typically is going to be nominated by the Academy to begin with. So the fact that she won that Globe is hugely significant. What do you make of the fact that she was even nominated by the Oscars, by the Academy, for a Marvel Universe film?
I think that when you look at the giant that is Marvel, that is Disney, you can't overlook it. And when you look at the intention and the artistry that someone like Ryan Coogler brings to that story, this is so much more than a typical superhero film. This is a film, he says, that's about loss. It's about triumph. It's about contemporary colonialism, right? This is as deep as it gets when you talk about a Marvel film.
But despite that and all those things being true that you said, no other actor has even been nominated for his or her role in a Marvel film. Yeah. The original Black Panther was the first and only Marvel movie to win Best Picture in 2019. So despite the multiple subtexts and themes of Black Panther and the sequel, it made history by, breaking a barrier in the Academy in terms of how they think about movies. So for us, the movie was everything. But like you said, to those 81% of those white folks are going, we know some of them saw it because the movie made so much money. It had to be seen by more than just Black people. But your point is that oftentimes the folks who are voting, Black movies don't register for them, which is, we can go back to Angela Bassett. You said in the course of her career, many of the movies that she's been in maybe didn't even make the radar of some of these folks. But there was this sense that this was her time. Like, she got robbed of it in 94 and now come forward almost 20 years later, this would be the time.
Yeah. And I think she thought that too. I think that her response, and people have called it beautifully human. I appreciate that she didn't rush to applaud someone, because we can see the significance of the nomination, and we can see the reality of having your hopes dashed, because even the category that she's nominated for, best performance by an actress, is in a supporting role. To say that it's even a supporting role, I think is a bit of a stretch. She is central, absolutely, to this film, and when you compare that to the role that Jamie Lee Curtis plays in Everything Everywhere All at Once, just if you look at the number of lines and scenes, Angela Bassett's performance exceeds Curtis's. And some people have said, well, if it was going to go to someone else, perhaps it should have gone to Stephanie Hsu, who played the daughter of the lead actress in Everything Everywhere, and is arguably, again, a much more expansive role than Curtis plays in the film. And so I think it was one of those things where Curtis was perhaps getting the delayed or belated acknowledgement. But I don't think that when you look at both performances side by side, it's very hard to see what voters saw in Curtis's performance that they thought it exceeded Bassett's performance in Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, these things are tough. Somebody's got to win, and by definition, that means somebody's going to lose.
Yeah, several.
I'm thinking back to Denzel sitting there when Fences, right, is nominated, and Viola Davis wins, and this is Denzel's heart. This is his soul. He did everything for that movie, and I thought Denzel deserved that award. So even in that case, it really begs the question about how significant these awards events are. There's seemingly now many, many more award shows, whether it's the NAACP, whether it's the Critics' Choice, it's the Golden Globes, it's the screenwriters. I mean, it just seems like they've just mushroomed, although people still put a lot of emphasis on the Academy as being kind of the grandmother, the granddaddy of all of these awards. But are they making and breaking folks in this industry? When we come forward, I want to talk about that, and then talk about the beautiful tribute that Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors gave to Angela Bassett from the stage last night at the Oscars. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Do you know California Black women serve as breadwinners in 80% of Black households, yet only make 55 cents on the dollar to their white male counterparts? Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by Lendistry. Story courtesy of CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. In honor of Women's History Month, the Black Women's Collective and a host of experts, policymakers, labor leaders, and more gathered to create an economic action plan for Black women. The facts remain that Black women serve as breadwinners in 80% of Black households, yet only make 55 cents on the dollar to their white male counterparts. This wage gap is one of the largest in the nation. California falls short of the national rate at 63 cents on the dollar. I'm Maisha Cairo. That's your K-Black Minute News.
Thanks to our new sponsor, Lendistry. Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered in Los Angeles. Lendistry helps small business owners access the affordable capital needed to grow. Visit Lendistry, LENDISTRY.com/KBLA today.
Yeah, this is your girl, Cheryl Underwood, and I want to tell you something. My digestive system used to make me feel sluggish, but those days are over. Now I feel great. That's because I increased my fiber intake with the Metamucil 2-week challenge, and I'm still hooked. I just took Metamucil every day for 14 days, and it's really that easy. Metamucil traps and removes the waste that weighs you down, so you feel lighter and more energetic. Now I never want to go back to that heavy feeling. Are you ready for the Metamucil 2-week challenge? For a coupon and daily support, sign up at Metamucil.com today.
When I can't sleep, my mind just races. I think about work, the kids, but I don't think about taking melatonin because I'm afraid I'll feel groggy in the morning.
ZzzQuil Pure Z's Gummies has an optimal dose of melatonin for no next day grogginess, so you can fall asleep naturally and wake up feeling refreshed. ZzzQuil Pure Z's Gummies for better sleep like never before. And try Pure Z Sleep plus Next Day Energy with melatonin plus extended release B vitamins.
KBLA Talk 1580 welcomes the U.S. premiere of the Bob Marley One Love Experience. Open now through April 23rd at Ovation in Hollywood. Enter to win a pair of VIP tickets on the KBLA app or KBLA1580.com. A One Love Experience poster, vinyl record, and souvenir. This has been a community call to action brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm back with Professor Tamika Townsell. She is an expert on race and media, and we're talking about yesterday's Oscars, really asking the question, did Angela Bassett get snubbed? We know that if you were watching, you would have seen presenters Michael B. Jordan and Jonathan Majors, when they took the stage to hand out the award for Best Cinematography, they actually honored Angela Bassett. Jordan said, "Hey, Auntie," which was a reference to the 2018's Black Panther. And then Jonathan Majors added, "We love you." How touching was that, Professor Townsell, to see those two guys who were up there? They had a job to do. They had teleprompter. They had, copy to read, but yet they went off script for a minute and gave that, tribute to Angela Bassett.
It was the most beautiful display of Black love, and I hope that moment gets seared into time the way that moments from the previous year have been discussed. It was part of what was beautiful about it is that if you aren't really aware of the nuances of Black culture and the way that Black communities relate to one another, where sort of anybody can be your auntie, right? We all sort of can look at Angela Bassett and her husband, Courtney B. Vance, as like Auntie Angela and Uncle Courtney. So the fact that they use this close term to refer to her, bringing her into and acknowledging that despite all the hoopla, right, despite all the pomp and circumstance of the Academy Awards, that on another level, on a deeper level, that they're all a part of this Black family, this Black shared Black cultural experience. And it was them saying, "We see you." And that is what Black performers and Black filmmakers have been demanding, have been fighting for. Representation matters because, in part, it acknowledges and it forces these various institutions to see Black people, to see Black life, to see Black artistry. So I absolutely loved it. And, they still got to what they were up there to do, but it was, I think it was just enough. And it just endeared them both, Jonathan Majors especially, into all of our hearts, as if, they didn't have enough love, right? Right. From
Michael
Black
B. Jordan is coming up, well, both of them coming off that amazingly successful, financially successful and well-received movie Creed 3. And we know there's going to be a Creed 4, and there's going to be a whole Creed enterprise that will continue for some years to come. But you gave some startling statistics. 81% of the folks who are voting still white. And this is after the Oscars So White campaigns. This is after efforts, as you said, to diversify. We've made a little dent, but haven't done a whole lot. So is it time to move on? I know there's a conversation happening about, is it time to combine the categories so it's not Best Actor and Best Actress, to have just one category? Right. Women say that's going to be catastrophic for them. They're already losing to men, not getting nominated. So they said combining the categories will probably even make it worse. But I'm just wondering, given the success that so many Black movies like Creed are having without ever getting nominated for this big award.
Right.
Should Black actresses and actors and should the Black community, should we really just be thinking about moving on from the Oscars, whatever that means? Because I mean, that's a big loaded question, but it just feels like there's so much hope and anticipation every year. And no matter what, we're always let down. I mean, we're always
We usually are let down. And I think that that is just a part of Black freedom struggles, is finding the joy in being able to tell our stories and not allowing the dismissals of others to diminish that joy that we have, and making sure that we support our stories, that we support the people who are making things so that we get to see ourselves on screen. So we have to hold on to that joy, but I think that we also have to keep demanding that these institutions that claim to be meritocracies are living up to what they profess to be. And if it is a meritocracy, then let's see that. We need to see that reflected in who gets nominated and who's voting. And if we look beyond the acting categories, things are even more dismal in terms of they are almost exclusively white men. If you look into a lot of the more technical things, cinematography and sound, you're going to have almost no people of color and very few women who are going to see representation in those categories. So there's a lot of work to be done, and there's a way in which if the Academy is going to retain its prestige, it has to begin to listen to the demographics that are quickly becoming the majority in this country, and who are quickly becoming the majority of the film audience, right? We should still, I think, demand that our voices be heard. And this is something that Prince Bythewood acknowledged when she was talking about her snub as director of The Woman King. She said that she wrote a piece and said that she was a part of a conversation where some folks were looking for directors for an upcoming film. They were not even considering directors who had not been previously nominated for an Oscar. You weren't even going to make the short list if you didn't have that accolade. So it does matter in terms of who is even getting access to that director's chair, to a lot of these power seats, to be able to shape the stories that are being told.
Yes, that's true. I guess I get a little nervous when we use the word meritocracy or merit, because we know there is no meritocracy in this country, and we know that it's never been one.
Exactly.
And if we start talking about it, somehow that'll be used against us in a way that, will benefit other groups and definitely not African Americans. And I hear that obviously some jobs you're not going to even be considered for unless you have this degree or this level of experience, or you've been nominated for this award. But I think what people like Michael B. Jordan has shown with Creed 3, what Will Packer has shown with Girls Trip, and Best Man sequel, those movies, is that there is an audience. There's a thirst for those Black stories, that Black people will go see them. And you may not ever get, I think, an Oscar. I think of folks like Samuel Jackson.
Yeah.
There's no one that works more than Samuel L. Jackson, who you can turn on your TV at 2 a.m. or 6 a.m, any time of day or night, and catch a movie from whatever generation you are born in or live in. And damn, that's Sam Jackson. He is like one of the most, prolific actors in Hollywood. Commercials, you name it, he's done it. But he's not going to get an Oscar likely in this lifetime. I don't want to say never. Never is a big, long time, but he's gotten to be, he's so revered and he's so respected in the industry. And yeah, you may not get those jobs that require you to be Oscar nominated, but it seems like there's so many other opportunities out there for Black folks with all the streaming sites and all the competition that's happening, all the consolidation. It seems like content, there's boundless and endless amount of content that's being created, and successful folks like Viola Davis, they figure out how to make their mark. They figure out how to, work in their craft. I'm thinking of, I don't know if you've seen this, just kind of off script from the Oscars, but your film critic or your culture critic, the new Bounce sitcom with Kim Whitley, Tisha Campbell, and
Actor
Nicole
Age.
Brown, Actor Age. So it's kind of a take on Golden Girls, but it's a modern day Black female women, successful women showing friendship and the trials and tribulations that, women in their middle ages go through. And again, on a channel, Bounce, most folks maybe didn't hear, maybe don't even have Bounce, but it debuted the largest audience for a Bounce sitcom in its history. I think like 2.1 million viewers. So again, opportunities for Black folks to work, to do quality work, because again, not necessarily the job that, or the show that may show up on a CBS or one of those quote unquote, network mainstream stations, but they're out there and they're working and they're telling stories and they're representing Black folks. So I just say to Black actors and actresses, what I say to any Black folks, we're rooting for you. We will go see your movies. We will watch your sitcoms. I was at a viewing party for Kim and Tisha's sitcom. Black folks, you make it, we'll come.
That's
we'll
right.
Support you. We will support you. And Angela Bassett was fabulous yesterday. She's fabulous today.
She was.
And she continue to be fabulous and a role model for young actors and actresses, for old actors and actresses, not just young, and for anybody that loves, watching folks at her level do what they do. So I thank you so much, Professor Townsend, for joining me. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for lifting up these stories. I want to give you a shout out again for your book. I found it. It's called Branding Black Womanhood, Media Citizenship from Black Power to Black Girl Magic. Let's support Black authors and support those folks who are telling our stories. So again, thank you for joining me in this hour. All right, y'all, this is it for me, but coming up next is the Raw Report. But if you want to be a part of this conversation, continue to follow me on all social platforms at Areva Martin. After news, sports, and traffic, more from KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.